Good evening and welcome back to the Angry Cast and Fallout Shelter. Hey, let's get... hey, there's nobody at the door. Hello? There's nobody at the door. Oh, that's right. We had them all set up on quests. And we need to go take care of them. So let's go do that. We got Diplomatic Mission. We got... Go West. And we have the Ghostly Gag. So let's do the Diplomatic Mission first and then go right down the line. What just happened? Let's go to... Let's try that again. I don't know what happened there. I think that was a glitch. That's funny. What the hell is going on? Alright, let's try Go West instead. See what happens there. Yay! Search for Herb Vest at the old candy factory, where a gentleman is hiding out with a bunch of Oompa Loompas. Yeah. Love that story. Gene Wilder, R.I.P. Alrighty. Oh, there's a glowing one. Woo! Oh, my goodness. I love a good story. I do. You know, we've talked about Halloween movies and our favorite candies. But there are some truly, truly great Halloween scary stories out there. And if you've never sat around the campfire doing that, my goodness, what have you been doing with your life? So it's funny because back in college, I was my first acting role in University of Pittsburgh was a workshop for a play called Fuente Ovejuna, which is like I think sheep town, something like that. And you know, it's a look up the play. Fuente Ovejuna did it. It's a cry of like Spartacus. I am Spartacus. It's the same idea. But the director of that was a guy. He was from like New England area, like Connecticut, you know, Massachusetts, that whole upper area. And you know, you talk about like a good fall Halloween type environment, New England, like the Sleepy Hollow, the era, that kind of, that whole gothic Americana type of thing. But he had a great story he told us one day during rehearsal. And I mean, it was the fall, so it was close to Halloween when we had this had this discussion. And he told us the story, and I'll never forget it. It was pretty spooky, So I can tell it to you now. How about that? Just, we got time. So, woo, what did we get? Nothing big. So basically how the story goes is, he grew up in a small New England town, and they had a lot of old Victorian homes up in the area. And a lot of them had that, that gothic look with the, the metal work around the roofs, like iron working fences, stuff like that. And, the kids growing up in his small town, wasn't very big. They kind of like all sort of were subject to this type of hazing ritual, by the older kids. In order to be considered cool, you had to bend to their whim. I mean, they usually consisted of performing some sort of menial task that required you to do something humiliating, nothing big, maybe even slightly illegal, But if anything else, it was something that was meant to scare the kids, leaving them completely vulnerable to ridicule by other kids their age. Fear was something you didn't show as a kid. You didn't show as a youth. It got you marked for life if you had. So during the summer, on one such occasion, it was his turn. He had come of age, and he had to prove himself to these older kids. And his task was to venture up to this old house up on this hill, from where he lived. And the way they told it, the story was that an old man had lived there. Old man Johnson had lived there. Him and his wife lived there for 40 years, and every so often the old man would be seen driving his antique car into town for supplies. Now, his wife didn't get around that much. She was pretty much an invalid, and he tended to her all the time. Well, being that she was not of the best of health, she eventually died. By some sort of weird allowance, I don't know how this would have worked, he was permitted to take the casket home. And it said that he never spent a night away from each other when they were married, and he made sure to keep his promise by bringing home the casket and placing it in their basement of this old Victorian home, which is sort of weird, you know. But after that, the old man was barely seen leaving the house. I mean, they had no other families, so it's unclear whether or not he had died, and the house was just cleared of the belongings, including this coffin. But you know, it became sort of the stuff of folklore to the kids in his town. In order to be in this club, you had to go into this basement of this old creepy house, into the one corner, and there, if you know, touch the coffin. Now they thought, well, why would the coffin still be there if the old man was living? Oh, speak of the devil, what are you doing here? If anything, I've tried to find anything about Vault 31. When anyone goes near, it disappears. I think it's haunted. Vault-Tec's local office might have more. So I gotta go to Vault-Tec's local office. Oh boy. So his task was to go touch this coffin in this weird, spooky house. So now, along with him, there was 2 other kids that were equally frightened at this idea. But they were willing to do it because none of them wanted to be labeled the scaredy cat. So they made their way up to the cellar door of this old house, and it opened with this, this huge creak. And all they were allowed to carry was a flashlight and any courage that they could muster to go into this dark, dingy basement full of cobwebs, and whatever their imagination could scare up would haunt them forever. But they had to go touch this casket. So they reached the bottom of the rickety steps and turned to the left. Now, in the far corner, they made out what looked to be like an old workbench. And as they moved closer, it appeared to be not a workbench, but there was an altar. And there it was, the old man Johnson's wife's coffin, lying in state for all to see. It was black and immense, and their throats tightened. The legend was true. They had to go touch it or be branded cowards by the 8th graders. So they crept closer to the coffin as their flashlight beam became more visibly erratic. It was like some weird gothic rave with a strobe light for ambience. Just then, there was a sound like something was being dragged on the dirt. They looked around all the basement, but they could not find the source of the noise. Then it happened again, and we shook with a start. On the next sound, they noticed that the coffin had visibly moved position towards the edge of the slab on which it was lying. Perhaps one of the older boys had snuck down into the basement, ahead of them, and was hiding behind the coffin to make it appear to move. My friend held his ground with that thought as the other 2 boys quaked in their shoes. And with that, the coffin reached the edge of the slab and tipped straight up on its end of the air. And now he was beginning to freak out. So all 3 of them took steps backwards towards the stairs, never taking their eyes off the only source of light of which was on the coffin, and it began to slide. No, it bounced towards them, making the most horrific of sound of being dragged across this dirt floor, this, almost the wood ripping out of it. Now that was too much for his friends because they tripped over themselves trying to get up the steps out of the basement, and they ended up knocking the flashlight out of his hand. As they ran up the steps, he reached for the flashlight, but the coffin had bounced closer yet, now closing the distance between him leaving the flashlight in a position nearer to it. He would have had to reach down at the coffin's feet to grab the flashlight. He would have been in prime spot to be grabbed by some bony hand of old woman Johnson if she decided to fling open the casket lid and do so. He crept backwards, tripping on his own fear towards the steps. Without his flashlight, he had no weapon to defend himself. And he quickly searched his pockets for anything he could use. Lint was definitely not a great idea, as anyone will tell you that only a fool brings lint to a coffin fight. Another bounce. Boom! And here he was at the base of the steps, frozen in fear. His feet had left the situation, and his brain was just about to grab the door on its way out as well. Still searching his pockets for anything. Another bounce. Boom! Now the coffin was just a couple of feet away from him at the foot of the steps. The sunlight was just a few steps away, but he could only see the darkness of the ebony lacquer with his own frightened expression looking back at him in the reflection. The coffin was in position to strike. Another bounce! Soon he would be his victim. Just then, his thumb and index finger located something in his pocket. And from his pocket, all he could find to save him was a Smith's Brothers lozenge. Now, not giving old woman Johnson the satisfaction of feasting on his flesh, he did the only thing he could do. He threw the lozenge at the coffin with all of his might, and with such intensity that it shattered into a million pieces, and suddenly, the coffin stopped. I'd like to take a moment to apologize for how horrible that was. In my mind, before I started recording, I thought that was going to be a great idea. But trying to... Exactly. That's how bad it was. I've attracted roaches. That is how horrible that entire delivery of that story was, that I attracted roaches. That was such a bad story. Oh my god. The things I think of at, 4:30 on my drive home, I think this would be a great idea. Let's try this. Let's tell a story. Let's go read this blog post that you wrote, how many years ago? Actually, this was 8 years ago. 8 years ago. Why was I thinking this was being a good idea at all? I am so sorry. I am so sorry. At the whole, tell me right. I'm not going to tell you jack shit. Can I get unleaded on pump number 2? That's of course what we need to say. Sure, I'll make sure you get plenty of lead. Please, you've got nothing. You've got nothing. Oof. You have no chance of winning this battle. Gregory is awesome. Yeah, in my attempt to come up with compelling ideas to fill the gaps, I have no idea why I even thought that it was even remotely a good idea. But I take full responsibility for that travesty of justice, of storytelling, something I take very highly with regards. And I will, the people responsible for sacking the people who have just been sacked, basically, is what I'm doing. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That was just sad. Thank you. At least made it worth it for doing that. Yikes. I needed something because that stupid freaking diplomatic mission is not working. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe I can get it to kick off now. Otherwise, this is all you get for right now until we can figure it out. Let's go! Diplomatic mission! Let's try it again! It's not gonna work. Shit! What the hell, man? I don't understand why it won't work. I did a quick search in, whatchamacallit, and this might be a game-ending thing where it doesn't work. Ghostly gag! Woohoo! You're all by your lonesome there, Eulogy. Get in there and scare the bejesus out of some raiders. Boop. I'm getting stuff, though. I don't care. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. Oh, nice. Because this might be pointless otherwise. Yeah, so what are your favorite scary stories? Other than the one I just told, which was horrible, and I'm going to have to heavily edit that. Because I couldn't do two things at once, and I kept missing stuff on the screen because I was looking at another one. I should have just told it from memory, and that's part of my problem. It would have gone a lot better. So. It's a ghost! Kill it! Kill it with fire! My, one of the things I used to love about Supernatural when it first started out was the fact that it was sort of like all the old ghost stories, like all the old urban legend things. Like the Lady in White and stuff like that. You know, the Wendigo, all those, the Monsters of the Weeks. I mean, I understand Supernatural has gone to, like, great lengths to not give any Fs about anything anymore. And that's kind of one of the reasons why it's probably been on as long as it has. Because they just don't care. But you go back and watch the first season versus season 11. And it's a bit of a different story altogether. The humor was kind of there, but it wasn't to the level of extremities, or the level of extremeness that it has gone now. I mean, just look at the Groundhog Day episode. That alone is enough to tell you that they don't care. They don't care what they do. They're gonna just keep riding that train until it. A ghost! It's come to get me! Ah! Boo! I am the ghost of your grandmother. Nice, Nana. No. Wait, my grandma's still. Oh, that sucked. Oh well. Kill him anyways. I know you're all by yourself, Eulogy, but you got this. Yeah, it's Supernatural is going to... Now, I have never watched, and my friends tell me I should, I've never watched American Horror Story, because the first season with the whole gimp suit, I was kind of like, nope, I'm noping the F out of there, I don't really care. I had no interest in watching it. And I just don't really have any desire to. I guess it's not all or it is connected, but it's not all connected. Whatever. Yay! We got the ghostly gag. We got the skeletal outfit. Woohoo! Yay! But let's keep looking. Let's keep going on. The other show. What's the other show? Oh. Well, I watched the X-Files growing up, but that's about it. I got nothing else on that. I'm not going to keep talking about scary and try to just come up with things to fill in time. But so here we are. We are a couple weeks away from not even a week, about a week and a half away from Halloween. And Halloween ooh, why do you keep snapping back? Halloween is on a Monday this year, which kind of sucks because that means that, you know, Bailey's going to be mad that she's going to go trick-or-treating and then have to go home and then, you know, very soon get ready for, you know, to go to bed because she has to go to school the next day. I think she has school the next day. I have to go to work the next day, so it won't really matter. So you know, it has been customary that I take her around at least the last few years. I think it's actually starting since maybe 2014, maybe 2013. This is the second year I've taken her around. To 2014, 2015. This will be the third year I've taken her around. Yes, this is the third year I've taken her around, and she's a trooper. I remember when I was her age, it was funny. We lived in a neighborhood where, like, as I talked about this before, lived in a neighborhood where there was like gridded streets. You know, you walk up the street, go left, come down the street. You know, there's just houses everywhere, except for when we moved, and there was like nothing around for miles. And it was funny because it's like one of my parents would always take me trick-or-treating when I was a kid. You know, granted, it was the 80s. We're talking about 1983. And it probably wasn't that big of a deal, but there was like a major road right there. Oh, there's nothing else in this room. There's a major road, like the main road, like that went through. It was like it's like an old highway type of thing. Not a really a highway, but the road. Like, you know how like certain roads are like major highways, and they were a recreation of an older road that was like the main highway in 50 years ago. That was this way. It was called West Crawford Avenue, and it was the main road that ran through the center of our town. So it was technically a major road in that regards, and people just flew up it. So me walking up and down the streets by myself with a mask where I couldn't see anything was probably dangerous, and having an adult go with you was probably a smart idea. The only problem is that neither one of my parents wanted to take me trick-or-treating. It was a beautiful night. It's not like it was like horribly, unseasonably cold and rainy. They just didn't want to take me trick-or-treating. Like, you know, my own father is just like, well, can't he go himself? He's 10 years old. And my mom's like, he's 9. And I was kind of like, a little bit butthurt over that. Like, my father doesn't know how old I am. But I actually did go walk, you know, I went on trick-or-treating all by myself. I did it. And it wasn't that bad. But I couldn't imagine Bailey these days walking around by herself. And even though our road is about the same amount of traffic as that road was, I would not want her to walk. And I just, not that I wouldn't trust her, it's just that, and they actually shut down our road. They actually shut down the street from traffic. So kids can go trick-or-treating for 2 hours. I mean, there are ways to get around it, but for the most part, you really can't get up the road until after, you know, it gets going. Which is nice. That's nice. That's a good thing. They should do that. But I still want to be involved. I still want to do that. Let's try this one more time and see if it works. Actually, we're going to do this. I'm going to close it down, turn it back on, and see if it works. Nope. It ain't budging. Ah, shit. What are we going to do about that, man? That's kind of screwed up. That's kind of screwed up. Is there any way to cancel that? We can't cancel that. We are kind of messed up here, man. Shit! I've potentially lost... not only have I potentially lost 3 people, I potentially lost 3 of my best people. That sucks. What the hell? Mother trucker. I've lost the ability to send out more people on quests, except for those 2. Yeah. Well, that blows. Man, has anybody else experienced this before? Let me know. It's diplomatic mission. Send a team in formal wear out to talk to a settlement. They're there, but nothing's happening. That kind of sucks, man. That shit. All right, well, so I'm sorry. You get only 2 quests and a really shitty story. Oh well. Hey, you know what we could do? You know what we could do? How about this? Hold on. So yeah, okay. I've only had one person tell me anything. So guess what? All of our Mr. Handies. We still have one that hasn't been, or we still have a couple that haven't been named. Mr. Handy, guess what? Well, your sarcasm has been noted. Thank you, Rob Ion 11. We are naming this Mr. Handy Robin. There you go. There you go. You are now Robin. There you have it. Nobody else has bothered to give me any names. So Rob Ion 11 or Robion, I don't know how you want to pronounce it. I apologize. I don't mean to mangle things, but you'll get a shout out right now. Put it in the comment section when the video goes up, and you will also get a card to, if you have a channel. You have 6 videos out there. I'll promote the heck out of your site there. So there you have it. That's all I got for you. Like I said, 2 crappy, a crappy story. I got another Mr. Handy there that needs to be named. Jesus Christ-minutely. So there you go. You got 2 quests and a crappy story, and something broke, and we need to figure out why it's broke. And if anybody else if anybody has any suggestions, I would be more than welcome to hear it. I don't want to do this quest on my phone. I don't want to mess up any more vaults. I might be able to do it, maybe make a copy of it and see if I can fix it that way, but we'll see. All right, have a good one, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Candy Factory, where an old, younger...